Good night, folks. I'm Leighton Levy. Of course, over the past few weeks, you would have probably heard. If not, the reality is that Sportsmax is shutting down completely as of. That will create a gap in the sports reporting, sports industry within the Caribbean. My way of filling that gap will start with this channel on YouTube, which will be called Mr. Analyst. I'm going to go with that as the name for the channel, and we will be trying to discuss several sporting issues. It's not just track and field. We talk about some football, we talk some basketball, we talk about whatever is current and whatever is relevant in the space in that moment. We will try to have some opinion on it, probably do some interviews, try to make things interesting, to try to fill the gap that Sportsmax will leave behind when everything shuts down on August the 8th. So we start tonight basically with a simple thing. One of the things that I've come to realize is that with the announcement that Shelly and Fraser-Pryce made earlier this year that this is going to be her final year in track and field, well, at a global championship, certainly. I think she might even continue afterwards, but not on a global level, is that it brings to end an era which I used to call the Usain Bolt era, but an era in which I've now chosen to describe as the Usain Bolt, Shelly and Fraser-Pryce era. Now for the Elaine Thompson era of fans who are going to be pulling their hairs out now, this is why I'm going to explain to you why I've decided to classify that era as the Usain Bolt, Shelly and Fraser-Pryce era. But let me start with Elaine. Elaine has done something that no other female sprinter has done in history. She's the second fastest woman of all time, and in my mind, she's the world record holder at 10:54. That was set in August of 2021. After she won the Olympic sprint double for the second time, and also winning the 100 in a new Olympic record of 10.61, which in the eyes of the world athletics, actually in a report that they did in 1994, is or should be the actual world record, that 10.62 set by Flojo back in 1988. But let's move on to explaining why I've decided to not really exclude Elaine, but to classify the era as the Usain Bolt, Shelly and Fraser-Pryce era. Elaine Thompson era, 2016 she won the sprint double in Rio, and of course in Tokyo in 2021 she won the sprint double again. She's that class of one. Nobody's ever done that before. But the thing about how I classify athletes is consistency and longevity. When you look at what Shelly and Fraser-Pryce has done from 2008 right up to 2015, when her 100-meter performances literally mirrored Usain Bolt's. Gold in Beijing in 2008, gold in Berlin in 2009. Both failed to medal in the 100 in 2011 in Daegu. 2012, both won the 100 in London. In 2013, both won the 100 in Moscow. Of course, both won the triple that year as well. In 2015, similarly again, Bolt won the 100, Shelly won the 100. That consistency is why I believe that the era should be fairly categorized as the Bolt, Shelly and Fraser-Pryce. Of course, Bolt retired in 2017. Shelly got pregnant that same year, came back in 2019 and won 2 additional titles. Won an Olympic silver, and of course a World Championship bronze in that time as well. Her consistency over the past 17 years has been nothing but extraordinary. So that brings us to the end of that era that pretty much started. I'd like to think that that era started in 2008 when both won in 2000 at the Olympics in Beijing. Bolt won silver in 2007 in Osaka behind Tyson Gay in the 200 meters, and of course Shelly was a member of the 4x1 relay team that year as well. But in terms of them getting to the top of the pinnacle of the sport, it happened for both of them in 2008. So that's why. So it brings us to the argument now, of course, the end of that era. Now is a time now, there's a transition happening where we're looking at a new set of sprinters coming up, both on the male and the female side. A couple of years ago, we were worried about our men. As of this moment, Jamaica has 4 men who 3 of whom are the top 3 men in the world, and 1 is ranked at 6 in the world. So we have 4 men in the top 7 in the world and in the top 10 overall. The women are still coming of age. The Clayton twins have shown that they're potentially getting there. Of course, Tina Clayton 1081 this year. If you remember, back in 2008, Shelly and Fraser-Pryce came second at Jamaica National Championships in 10.82 behind Karen Stewart, and then went on to win the Olympics in 10.78. The thing is, can 10.78, let's say Tina gets to Tokyo and runs 10.75 or 10.76 or 10.77, is that good enough to win the gold medal? I don't think so. Because what we're looking at here is that there's a transition, not just in terms of Jamaica, but in terms of the Caribbean. Because when you look at what Julian Alfred has been able to do, winning the Olympic title last year, of course, world indoor title, second fastest woman of all time indoors in both the 60 meters and 200. 1072 puts her among the fastest women of all time, winning the Olympic title last year. Based on what we've seen so far this year, she's clearly in shape to run 10.6 once Eldrick Florial takes the load off her and lets her go for Tokyo. And of course, I think I'm saying this from this moment, 7 weeks out, that unless something extraordinary happens between now and then, she wins a sprint double in Tokyo and creates another period of history for her country in St. Lucia. Now, there are many who are going to ask, what happened to Shericka Jackson? Shericka Jackson, two-time world champion, second fastest woman of all time, over 200 meters. Fantastic performance. But we all have to admit that what we've seen from her this year is not the Shericka of old. And look, she didn't have to run the 200 because she's already the world champion, so she qualifies and has a bye into Tokyo. 1088 at the national championship, second behind Tina Clayton. And of course, still with it's more than 2 months to go. And we know the Francis brothers are probably going to get her really, really sharp for Tokyo in mid-September. The thing is she ready to run 10.6 again? Because that is what I think it's going to take to win the women's 100 meters in Tokyo. Based on what we've seen from Julian Alfred and what we've seen from Melissa Jefferson-Wooden, that 10.75 and 10.77 respectively from Jefferson-Wooden and Alfred into a minus 1.5 win is literally 10.6 basic. So you're looking at two women who are already ready to run 10.6. I am not so convinced that Shericka Jackson can get back there. And this is not to say it's impossible, this is just my opinion. If she gets there and does fantastic things and win gold, and it all depends on whether she's running the 100 and the 200 as well, because the vibe I'm getting all year is that maybe she runs one or the other, not both. But regardless of wherever she runs, the 200 meters right now it looks to me like it's going to be 21.5 or thereabouts, based on what we've seen from, of course, Julian Alfred, what we've seen from Jefferson, of course, what we've seen from Gabby Thomas. And there might be other players who are coming in who are going to make it a lot more competitive than we've seen it in previous years. So, we're looking at a situation where the transitioning happening not just from the Jamaican women, but it doesn't leave the Caribbean, it's transitioning down to St. Lucia. And what we've seen from Julian Alfred last year and coming into this year suggests that the mantle is going to pass from Jamaica to St. Lucia in terms of the world champion in both the 100 and 200. Of course, the 100 meter title belongs to Sha'Carri Richardson of the United States. I don't think she is going to be on top of the podium as well, because based on what we see from her so far this year, Melissa Jefferson is clearly way ahead. And even if Sha'Carri gets back to the level where we saw her in, well, put it this way, I don't see her getting back to that level based on where we saw her the last time, 11.19 I think it was. Can she get back to that 10.6 level? It's going to be difficult. There are different areas of our race that look like they need a lot of work, and can that be fixed in 7 or 8 weeks? I don't know. I'm skeptical. So that's how I see the transition happening between the Jamaican women who have been dominant for the past almost 2 decades, but the dominance doesn't shift to the United States that got into the equation last time out in 2023, but it shifts now to St. Lucia, where I think it will remain for a while until one of the Jamaicans or somebody else decides to rise above and run really, really fast consistently throughout the course of the year. Right now, Julian Alfred is that girl, and I don't see her losing unless something extraordinary happens. One final note tonight, because I'm not going to make this too long, because this is my first outing. Of course, things are going to improve. The lighting will improve. The sets will improve. We're working on it over the next few weeks to ensure that we bring it up to the highest standard. One final thing. There are a lot of people who thought and still think that I hate Elaine Thompson-Herah. In fact, there's nothing could be further from the truth. I think Elaine Thompson-Herah is probably the greatest female sprinter of the era, if not of all time. If only she would be able to maintain that level of consistency throughout the last 8 years, and instead of just winning the two Olympic titles, we needed to see more from her. I've confirmed over the past few days that she's been training in Spain with elite performance, and I am hopeful that she's back there now will probably give her a level of stability that we'll probably see her back on the track next year, when I think she'll be 33 years old next year. The fact is, though, that all that talent can't just afford to go away like that. I'm not saying she's going to get back to 10:54 or 10:61, but we certainly love to see her back on the track, finishing on a high, as opposed to what's been happening now for the last few years, when we haven't seen anything from Elaine significant since 2022, when she won bronze at the Commonwealth Games. Well, she won gold at the Commonwealth Games in both 100 and the 200, and of course bronze at the World Championships in Oregon. And of course, completing another triumvirate for the Jamaicans with Shelly and Sharika. But from the bottom of my heart, I'd really love to see her make one last effort. And if going back to elite, and I don't even know if it's a permanent thing, I don't know if it's a temporary thing where she goes back to elite. But the reality is that if she's now there, since she's now there, let's hope that she can find that footing again that will help her to get back somewhere close to what we've used to seeing from her. Dominant, excellent form, incredible speed, and going back to winning, getting back to her winning ways. And we saw she do impressively in 2016 and 2021. The thing is, the unfortunate side of that thing is that I think they've made a series of mistakes from 2021 when they decided to leave MVP and not find another elite coach, not elite performance, but another world-class coach, put it that way. And then it was all downhill from there, and she left MVP. She eventually ended up with her husband Darren coaching her, which didn't turn out to be a good thing. Then went to Shaniki Osborne. That was another drama that didn't need to happen. Ended up in the United States for a while, and now she's back. I won't say in Jamaica, but certainly she's in Spain now training with elite performance. Are keeping our fingers crossed that we see her back on the track for 2026. It's a non-championship year, so maybe she can get her feet back under her that year, running in some meets, Diamond League and some other, world-class meets to get herself back on footing and getting herself back to what she's used to doing, running fast and looking amazing doing it. But the reality is that it's going to be a long haul. Look, we've seen Shelly run fast at 36 and 37. There's no reason to believe that Elaine can't do the same. So let's keep our fingers crossed for her and wish her the best of fortune going forward, and wishing her a healthy recovery and a long-lasting recovery that will see her rejoin the ranks of the current scrapper sprinters that do nothing but make Jamaica proud. So until next time, this is Leighton Levy saying good night and goodbye for now on Mr. Analyst, and we'll see you next time with something more, maybe something about cricket. Looking forward to that, and of course I'm hoping you will too. Of course, like and subscribe to my channel, and of course leave your comments beneath, and then let me know what you're thinking, maybe about my comments or maybe about what you think I should be doing, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.